Hey, what are you doing out here? It's late for a nighttime stroll. It's way past your bedtime. You should be in bed. Oh, I see. No. Has the walk helped at all? I can't sleep either. The ghosts and the rest of the Hellriders haven't returned yet, with the refugees from the Alpha sector. I'm a little worried they may have ran into some trouble. Come on, let's head back inside. A warm cup of milk and a bedtime story always helps me in the past. Maybe it will help you. Comfy? Good. Now, what story would you like me to read to you today? I have the usual classics, Treasure Island, Great Sherlock Holmes, and we even have Oliver Twist. Or we could read some mythology. We have the Norse mythologies, the Greek mythologies, Roman mythologies, or even some. Wait, you want to hear one of my stories? But you've heard them about 12 times already. Alright. Which one do you want to hear? We have some Digimon fanfics that bring to sleep again. Or we even have the Rise of the Guardian ones. Alright. I believe we left off on chapter 1. So, let me see here. Okay, yeah. So last time, Pitch got a visit from his horse about his brother that he finally found. And that is where we left off. Alright. You ready? Yeah. Just sit back and listen to your big sister read it to you. Chapter 2. Reunited. Early the next morning, Pitch stepped out of a tree's shadow with one of his smaller nightmares that was about the size of his palm. The little nightmare neighed at him, and Pitch felt a familiar tug deep within his soul. Pitch was surprised at first. He had only ever felt this tug when his brother was around, and that was ages ago. Feeling it again brought tears to his eyes. He slowly walked through a set of trees that led to a clearing. Pitch was glad it was a foggy morning, so he didn't have to worry about his little nightmare too much. He smiled softly as he heard a familiar voice beyond the trees. Pitch stayed hidden near a rather old-looking tree and watched as a young boy with brown hair led at least 10 young sheep. He watched in amazement at how easy he made caring for those things out to be. He certainly would not have been able to handle 10 young wild animals with relative ease, caring for the family pet, his daughter, and his infant brother. Had been an adventure all on its own. And the boy laughed as one of the smaller sheep rammed into another playfully. Pitch shook his head at that. No matter the age, kids were very amusing. Children will be children, he guessed. He continued watching the boy in silence as he tended to the herd of sheep. It wasn't until several hours later that the boy finally decided to herd sheep back home. Pitch followed the boy from the shadows, watching him as he and the 10 sheep walked back home. Once the sheep were all in their pens, the boy leaned against the fence. Pitch studied the boy. The boy had brown eyes that sparkled with mischievousness and brown hair. He wore a white undercoat, a brown vest, brown trousers, and a brown poncho to protect him from the morning winter chill. The boy also had a shepherd's staff in his hand. As the boy glanced in his direction, Pitch wondered if his brother had sensed him. The boy smiled and tilted his head to the right ever so slightly, almost as if he was hearing something beyond the wind. "You could come out. I know you're there." Pitch shook his head in amusement. Of course, his brother would have been aware of his presence. He would have felt the tug as well. How silly of him. With a smile, he walked out of the shadows and in front of his brother. His brother blinked his eyes in curiosity as he peered in front of him. "Hello, Jackson," Pitch said with an emotional smile. Jackson blinked his eyes for a moment, looking slightly confused. So this was the boogeyman. He didn't seem as scary as the storyteller made him out to be, but he had a feeling he knew him. Jackson frowned slightly in confusion as he studied the boogeyman. The man had a gray complexion, as if he hadn't been in the sun in years. Jackson also noticed the man's clothing. It was nothing he had ever seen before. Though the outfit seemed for someone of royalty, high status, for someone who was really, really old. Then again, the man looked like he was in his late 30s. Jackson looked into his eyes and froze. Those eyes looked so familiar. He had seen them before. The man's eyes were yellow with a tinge of silver in them. Jackson studied his eyes a little longer and was surprised that the man knew his name. A voice sounded familiar as well. He knew that voice. It was the voice from his dreams that he had from time to time. Well, those dreams were always vague, distant. There was one thing he recalled quite clearly. A flying golden ship traveling across the open sky. An older-looking couple holding an infant with bright brown eyes. A young man and his wife laughing as their daughter looked at the sky in awe. His family. He knew they were just a dream, a part of his life he knew was so far out of his reach. Yet this man, he couldn't be. Cosmosis? Is that you? Jackson asked hesitantly. What happened to Cosmosis? He looked so different now. Pitch smiled warmly, with tears in his eyes. Without even thinking, overwhelmed with emotions, Pitch pulled his brother into a hug, which Jackson returned. Yes, it's me. Thank the moon that you were all right. I have been looking everywhere for you. Jackson snuck closer to his brother. He felt and sounded like osmosis. But the outfit and skin tone and the strange yet cute miniature black horse baffled him. He wondered what happened. He knew he was pretty young when they got separated. He remembered it was maybe 3 or 4 when he and his niece, Emily, fled their home when they were attacked. Couldn't really remember what happened after that. All he knew was that he and Emily had been in their hibernation cradles when they crash-landed on Earth. Somehow got separated. He wasn't sure how long he had been in the cradle, but he had eventually been found by the Overlands, and they were traveling through the forest one day. He was grateful for that. Who knew what would have happened to him if he hadn't? What happened to you? You look so different, Jackson asked, shifting his gaze at his brother. What happened to you? You look so different, Jackson asked, shifting to gaze at his brother. It's a long story, Pitch said as they pulled apart. And I'm not sure if you have enough time, and so you have to get your sister ready. Jackson simply gave him a warm smile as he gestured to a horse not far from the small sheep penhouse. Would you like to come in and have breakfast with us? Then, we don't have much, but I love it if you joined us. Pitch smiled and nodded. But what he said bothered him. He didn't voice his opinions as he followed his brother. He didn't want to voice just how poor his brother's adoptive family was. He would have to fix that. Maybe he could bring them food and supplies to help them. And it was the least he could do for his brother's family after all. Couldn't fathom his brother as well as his family, eating so little, and not making enough to support themselves. Pitch entered the small wooden home and noticed that Jackson's family didn't have enough. There was a kitchen, a table for meals, chairs in the living room, a hallway that must have led to the bedrooms. Pitch was led to the kitchen, took a seat at the table. Tea? Jackson asked as he put water into a kettle and took out some herbs from a small wooden container he had on the counter. Yes, thank you. Pitch watched his brother as he made tea, placed it over the fire. Pitch placed the small nightmare on the table when Jackson left the room to wake up his sister. Pitch smiled at the nightmare as he stroked its head with his finger. At least he's safe. The horse neighed in response. Stay with him and protect him. Do not want those insufferable guardians to go after him. Who knows what they might do if they find out I have a younger brother. The nightmare whined in response, clearly not liking that mental picture. I made you to be his personal nightmare. He is not afraid of you, and would be very curious of you. It neighed and tilted its head as Fish spoke. Jackson smiled as he went to his and his sister's room. They didn't have much, which was why they share a room. But it worked for them. He smiled at his younger sister. They might not be blood related, but they still love each other. Flea was his little sister. He would do anything to protect her. He gently shook her shoulder in an attempt to wake her up. Flea groaned as she slowly woke up. Flea, wake up. Flea slowly opened her eyes and looked at him sleepily. She yawned as she sat up. Jack? What is it? Jackson raised an amused eyebrow at her. Did you forget you have school today? She blushed and pouted at his teasing tone. I didn't forget. Much. Jackson shook his head in amusement. He ruffled her hair affectionately, before sitting on the edge of her bed. Sure, kiddo, whatever you say. Jackson said teasingly. Flea laughed as he tried to swat his hand away. Jackson laughed as well at her attempts to stop him. He pondered on what to say, and they calmed down. Flea noticed something was bothering her brother and spoke before he could sort through his thoughts. Are you okay? She asked in concern. Did something happen when you were herding the sheep this morning? Yeah, I'm fine, Jackson answered back. Do you remember when Mom and Dad told you that I was adopted? Yeah, what's this about? She thought to herself. You said that they found you while they were traveling and took you to the town's healer to make you sure you were right. Mom said they found you in some kind of strange cradle. Jackson nodded at that before asking his next question. Do you remember when I told you that I had vague memories of my family? Yes. I remember you telling me a little bit about your brother Cosmosis and your niece Emily. Flea said thoughtfully. Oh, it's still weird how your niece is older than you. Jackson shrugged at that. It wasn't his fault that he was born after her. Why you ask? Well, Jackson started with a nervous smile. How would his sister react to his brother being in the kitchen? He found me while I was herding the sheep. Her eyes widened in shock. What? Really? Is he here? Yeah. He's joining us for breakfast. Flea practically jumped out of bed before he finished his sentence. Where are you going, Flea? Flea turned to him, her hand on the doorknob. To see your brother. Jackson raised an amused eyebrow at her. Don't you want to look decent before meeting my brother? Jack teased as his sister blinked at him, and then blushed when she realized she was still in her nightgown. Right, sorry, I'll get ready. Jackson hummed in response as he got up to leave the room, but not before ruffling his sister's hair again, turning it Jack in response. Before closing the door behind him, Jackson snickered to himself as he made his way back to the kitchen. As Jackson re-entered the kitchen, he noticed that his brother stroking the miniature black horse. Now that he thought about it, the horse looked like a smaller version of that nightmare horse that came last night. Jackson frowned. Was his brother this master that the horse was referring to? Was his brother really the boogeyman? And why was he? His brother was a hero and loved his people. Why would he intentionally give nightmares to children? Not that he was complaining or anything. People needed nightmares to keep them from doing something stupid. But still, something wasn't right. So, Jackson said as he walked past his brother to start breakfast, "Is there a reason that you were wearing a dress?" Jackson smiled smugly as he was rewarded with an exasperated look from his brother. "It's not a dress." Jackson snickered, and surprisingly, the small horse whined in agreement. As Pitch glared. "I will have you know, this is a very formal robe that was very popular way back before you were born." "Really?" Jackson said sarcastically. "And here I thought it was a dress." Pitch glared at him and at the horse as they snickered in agreement. "Brat," Pitch growled non-threateningly. Jackson gave his brother a mock hurt look. "You wooed me, cuz. That really hurt. And here I thought we were getting along so well." Pitch rolled his eyes at his younger brother's antics. The horse whined at him, and Pitch glared at it once more. "Traitor," Pitch growled at it as its ears flickered up before leaving Pitch's hand. Jackson blinked as the horse flew out of his brother's hand and galloped in front of him. Jackson wasn't sure what it wanted, especially with the one he saw last night. He studied it for a moment before putting his hand out. The horse neighed in response as it landed in his palm and looked back at him. Jackson smiled slightly as he slowly began to stroke the nightmare's mane. He was surprised. The horse felt like sand, yet it was a living thing. Well, that's something you don't see. Pitch smiled as he watched Jackson interact with the small horse. He had created the nightmare for him as a present. At least now, he will know where his brother was at all times. And if he needed help, the nightmare will be able to let him know. You like it? Pitch asked, but he already knew the answer. It's amazing, Cosmosis, Jackson chuckled, as the horse left his hand and flew up to his shoulder to nuzzle his cheek. I don't know how you did it, but this is probably the cutest thing I ever seen. Cute, Pitch thought incredulously. Normally he would have retorted a comment, but held his tongue when he saw his brother admiring the small nightmare. I guess I can live with that. He smiled softly. As long as he is happy, I can't really complain. That's good then. Jackson looked at him. She's all yours. What? Are you serious? Peach smiled at the shocked look. Yes, I made her for you. Jackson smiled softly. After getting over his moment of shock, why was he getting the feeling he doesn't get gifts often? Thanks, cuz. I'll take good care of her, Jackson said with a small smile as a small nightmare nuzzled his cheek again. Oh, Pitch knew his brother would take good care of his nightmare. The two were already bonding. Usually, they would never say or think this, but the sight was very cute. Pitch folded his hands on the table as he watched them. Pitch loved the feeling of being reunited with his brother. It had been decades since he held him, though Jackson should be a lot older than 16. He wondered how long he had been in the hibernation cradle. Pitch tossed that thought away for the moment. It didn't matter now. Jackson was safe and sound. They were together again, despite him having another family. He frowned as he remembered that they were poor, but quickly plastered a neutral smile on his face when Jackson glanced at him for a second before putting the nightmare down to get cups for the tea. The spirit thanked him as he was handed a steaming cup of tea. He smiled. He silently watched as his brother gave him a smile before returning to the kitchen to start breakfast. This was going to be an interesting morning. Pitch silently mused to himself. If he didn't know any better, others would have thought that he would be getting soft. Soft? No. Happy? Yes. If the Guardians knew he had this side of him, they would most likely use it against him to win the war. Pitch frowned at that thought. The Guardians have been a thorn in his side for ages. They managed to temporarily set him back in a very unfortunate defeat during the Dark Ages. But that didn't mean he lost. No. They haven't won. They will defeat them and make them pay what they've done. They destroy those he loved. They would make them pay. Yes, they will pay, but what if they go after Jackson? Pitch did not like that thought. They would have to make sure he was safe. Jackson was a child. He doubted that the Guardians would willingly hurt a child. However, they found out that Jackson was Pitch's brother. Who knew what would happen? Would the Guardians willingly kidnap Jackson and use him as leverage? There was a slight chance, but that was a chance he was not willing to take. Now, how was he going to protect Jackson from them was a different story altogether. Pitch would have kept that line of thought if it wasn't for the slightly surprised female voice. The Boogeyman! Oh, good grief. Are you still with me? Good. You ready for the next chapter? Alright. Perfect. Chapter 3. Breakfast Conversation. Yeah, I'm curious too. What's next? So, begin. Of all the people to be at their house, Blue was not expecting Boogeyman. Sure, she heard that he ate children and gave them terrible nightmares that can make a grown man cry. Although, he didn't look that scary. She wondered how many of those rumors were actually true. The Boogeyman turned to face her with equal shock on his face. Hello? God, this was awkward. Hello, Flea. Pitch greeted with a smile. His eyes widened as the Boogeyman, Pitch Black, the bearer of nightmares, said her name. She never told him her name. How did he know? Did Jack tell him? Oh, how do you know my name? Did Jack tell you? Flea glanced at her brother as he prepared breakfast. Jack paused in his stirring, glanced back. I didn't tell him, Jack replied, with confusion in his voice as well. It's my job. Flea turned back to the Boogeyman. You see, it's my job to give nightmares. In order to do my job correctly, I need to know basic information about the child I'm giving the nightmare to. Why? She asked. Everyone is afraid of something, my dear, was the Boogeyman's thoughtful reply. Not everyone is afraid of the same thing, at the same level. Okay. Okay, everyone has the same fear. I get that, but what does this have to do with you knowing our names? She asked. She took a seat at the table. The Boogeyman leaned forward a bit, resting his arms on the table. Super really. Let's say a boy lived in an area with a pack of vicious wolves. If I don't know this basic information, the nightmare I give him wouldn't be as helpful. He paused for a moment as Jack started putting the food on plates. If I knew this information, I would give him a nightmare about a scenario of what could happen if he wasn't careful. However, if I didn't know this information and gave him a nightmare unrelated to his situation, it wouldn't really help him, now would it? Flea shook her head at this. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't help him at all. Pitch nodded and didn't comment on what he was going to say when Jackson came and placed the food on the table, along with a pot of tea and 2 cups. They all gave thanks and began eating, switching the conversation to something else. So, Jackson begins as he munched on a piece of bread. Mind telling me the whole new appearance? And why you're called pitch black in our stories? Or how you lost track in the first place? Flea added. Pitch groaned into his tea. That's a long story. I would have to start from the beginning to answer both questions. Jackson and Flea gave each other curious looks before returning their attention back to Pitch. Back then, there was a war between good and evil. We were at war with every evil thing you can imagine. Fearlings, pirates, nightmare men, you name it. At the height of that war, there was a hero who fought them with his army and finally defeated them. I was that hero. During that time, I was called General Cosmosis Pitchener, hero of the Golden Age. Wow, Jackson and Flea said in awe. You were still very young at the time, Jackson, when I was assigned to guard the prison. Did it for many years without a problem, until the day they tricked me to opening the gate and setting them free. The children gasped at the same time they finished their food. They used the voices of you and my daughter, Emily. They made me believe that you two were trapped in there. Pitch shook his head sadly at how stupid he was. I should have known that you two were in there, that you two were safe at home, but I missed you two so much. I was missing the time to raise the both of you, and I guess that made me vulnerable to their lives. It's not your fault, Flea yelled. We're tricked. Pitch smiled softly at her comment. Jackson frowned slightly. Something was telling him that something bad had happened to his brother. 'Cause what happened after they were released? They attacked me and almost completely consumed my humanity, turning me into what you see today. Jackson paled. I guess you can say I went mad. The feelings that were in control at the time had me do something I am not proud of. Like what? Flea asked as tears filled her eyes. I destroyed our home world without a single thought. I destroyed our friends' home planet, the Pukas. I destroyed many galaxies and planets in my madness. And me? Jackson asked. I didn't know it at the time. But you and Emily and a few others managed to escape in hibernation cradles. What's that? Flea asked as she tried to remember the strange cradle that her parents mentioned finding Jack in when they found him. They were made back during the Civil War, before the Golden Age. We used these cradles to help those who were hurt, severely injured, or when we needed to escape to another planet that was far from us. Pitch paused in thought, thinking of how to word this. While in the cradle, a person is put into suspended animation. person cannot grow physically while in the cradle. This helps when someone is injured. Keeps the person alive until we could help them. Wow, Flea said, impressed. That's amazing. We don't have anything like that. All we have is a healer that comes to the house if we are sick or hurt. Indeed, Pidge said with a smile. Pidge glanced at his younger brother, who had a thoughtful look on his face. While I was going mad, Emily and Jackson's cradles traveled through other galaxies. Emily's cradle crash-landed after a few days, releasing her from her cradle. She grew up to the age of 16, but didn't get along with the man that raised her. After an outburst, she was put on a ship and sent to crash onto another planet. During this time, I was in control once again, and was traveling across various galaxies looking for you two. However, I also made many enemies, because I now command the feelings and gave nightmares to children. Many don't understand that nightmares are needed in life. During one of my battles, I was overwhelmed and crashed onto this planet and was put into a temporary sleep, which lasted a few weeks. I didn't realize it at the time that Emily was on this planet too. She made quite a name for herself. You may know her as Mother Nature. What? Jackson exclaimed in shock. Emily is Mother Nature? Flea was in equal shock. It's not every day you hear that your brother is related to the Boogeyman and Mother Nature all in one day. It's true. However, we are not on good terms at the moment. Why? I'm at war with the Man in Moon's guardians. Who? Jackson and Flea asked. Nicholas St. North, better known as Santa Claus. Tatiana, the Tooth Fairy. E. Aster Bunny Mound, the Easter Bunny, and Sanderson Mansoonzi. Sandman. Why? Why are you at war with them? Jackson asked, flabbergasted. They're good guys. They protect children. Flea nodded her head in agreement. Pidge frowned. Remember when I said I had enemies? They nodded. One of my enemies was the Man in Moon. You see, when I awoke from my slumber, I was cursed to be invisible to those who don't believe in me. I was fading away. However, I learned that I could prevent this by giving others nightmares. When I was strong enough, I tried to continue my search for you and Emily. However, there was a problem. The Guardians? Jackson asked with a frown. Yes, Pidge said with a sad smile. Madame Moon called them and made them Guardians. They fought to destroy and stop my fears. Foolish, I know. But that's what the war was about. This was during the Dark Ages. But Flea looked at him in confusion. Wasn't that like a few 100 years ago? Give or take, Pidge replied. I really don't remember the exact period. All I could tell you is that whatever survivors that managed to survive from our planet were wiped out by the Guardians. But that would mean that I should be really old, right? Jackson asked worriedly, not really paying attention to the last part his brother said. In a sense, yes. But you must remember, Jackson, that you were in the hibernation cradle for quite a long time. My guess is that by the time your cradle got into the galaxy, a lot of time has passed. You never aged because of the fact that you were still in the cradle, Pitch told him with an amused smirk on his face. That makes a lot of sense, Jackson mumbled as he got up to collect the bowls and cups, but he watched him as he disappeared into the kitchen. Are you still fighting the Guardians? Pitch looked at the young girl with a grave expression. They still tried to destroy me in my nightmares. Flea frowned. That doesn't sound very nice. She glanced at her brother. Will they try to come after us? She couldn't help it. She had to ask. I'm not sure. Maybe, Pitch answered, remembering the thought he had the day prior. They don't know I have a brother. When they find out, Emily Jane was my daughter. They tried to get her to fight with them. She remained neutral and refused to fight against me. Nor would she fight with me, especially with their actions. That led to the death of the refugees from our home world that came here. To this day, she is sticking to keeping the balance and staying out of our war. But she did promise me that if I ever needed help, she would come to my aid. She even promised to help search for Jackson and protect him. Flea nodded in slight relief, but then panicked when she heard the last part. You're not going to take him away from us, are you? Pitch raised his hands up in surrender, trying to calm the girl. No, nothing like that, told her. I made Jackson a miniature nightmare. He pointed to the nightmare on Jackson's shoulder. She can protect him and get me if you kid need my help. Flea smiled. She calmed down a bit. I can also send some other nightmares to guard your home, if you like. They can keep an eye on you two and protect you from the Guardians. Flea was thankful. After everything she heard, well, she really didn't like the Guardians for what they were doing to Jack's older brother. What about you? Jackson asked, surprising them. I know you're busy, but we just found each other again. Pitch looked at Jackson's sad face, not liking the fear he was getting from his brother. Pitch got up from his seat, walked over to Jackson's side of the table, and pulled him into a hug. I will not disappear, Jackson. It's true that I am at war, but that will not stop me from seeing you. I can come every morning, like today. I can risk an hour or two of my sleep to visit my baby brother. Flea squealed at the idea that Pitch would visit them every morning. Jackson was happy too about his brother visiting, even with his busy war-planned schedule, but he could not show it. He had a reputation to uphold, especially since he was just called baby brother. I'm not a baby, he whined. Pitch, or Cosmosis as Jackson insisted to call him, smirked. No matter how old you get, you will always be my baby brother. Jackson pouted as his brother began to ruffle his hair. Jackson heard his sister giggle at him. Oh, the irony. Jackson was going to complain. Hey, he had the right to be childish. But a knock on the door, followed by a young voice, interrupted his thoughts. They smirked at the time Jackson got out of his brother's hold and walked to the door. On the other side of the door was a young boy. The boy had brown eyes and hair, and freckles on his cheeks. He wore a brown tunic, cloak, and black pants. Jackson smiled fondly at the young boy as a huge smile grew on his face. "Hey, Jackson." "Hey, Jamie." Jamie is the son of Mr. Bennett, the founding father of their village. Jamie is a sweet, kind young man, and just so happens to have a huge crush on his sister. Jackson knew that they would be a cute couple one day. "You're just in time. We just finished breakfast," Jackson told him with a chuckle. He really loved the kid. "Really?" Jackson asked with a confused look. "You guys are usually not ready yet when I come to walk Flea to school." Jackson smiled as he leaned against the doorframe. "We had a visitor today who was telling us such a wonderful story about love and family," Jackson said with a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. Not that Jamie noticed. "Sounds boring," Jamie whined. "No, it was quite interesting, actually. We will have a similar conversation when Valentine's come around." Jamie blushed quite nicely at the comment. "Jack, I'm ready." Lee's voice ran from inside the house. Jamie let out a sigh of relief, while Jackson looked simply amused. Lee came to them and hugged her brother before moving around him to face Jamie. "Hi, Jamie." "Hi, Flea. Ready for school?" Flea gave him a disgruntled look. "No, but I have no choice in that matter." "That's right, kiddo," Jackson confirmed with a smile. "Just think of it this way. Knowledge is everything that leads to a path for greatness." He gave her a somber look that was filled with longing. "At least your path will be better than mine." "I wish you could go to school too," Flea said sadly, knowing that by the time the schools were built and established, Jackson had to uphold their dead father's responsibilities. "Don't worry about me, kiddo." Jackson ruffled his hair affectionately. "You just go on and learn for the both of us." Flea nodded. "You can always teach him," Jamie suggested. "Yeah!" Flea's eyes lit up with excitement. "I could teach you everything I learned in class." Jackson grinned at the idea. "Well, you better get going then," he said. "I'm looking forward to my first lesson." "Okay, yeah, bye, Jack. See you later." He grabbed Jamie's hand, who blushed slightly at the touch, and dragged him away from the house and towards the village. "Bye, Jackson. See you at the theater," Jamie yelled over his shoulder as he was dragged away by the excited girl. Jackson smiled softly as he watched the two run down the path leading to the village. He continued to watch them until they disappeared down the small hill. Jackson stayed there, staring at the empty path for a few more seconds before he decided to go back inside. Sighing, the young Overland boy turned to close the door to head back into the lonely house when he unfortunately went headfirst into his brother, who had been standing a few feet behind him. Cosmosis managed to steady him before he managed to ruin his pride by toppling onto the cold floor. "Jackson, are you alright?" Cosmosis asked, concerned. Jackson nodded. "Yeah, sorry." Cosmosis frowned at him. "Jackson, why don't you go to school with your sister?" Jackson frowned at him. "'Cause you need to understand that I don't have the same opportunities that Lee has now. The school wasn't built when I was her age. If I wanted to learn, I would need a private tutor, and we can't afford that. He shrugged. Besides, I have to be the man of the house and take up father's responsibilities. Pitch frowned. He wanted to say why his father couldn't do his own work, but restrained himself when he heard a whisper of Jackson's fears. Why did he have to die? It should have been me. I should have been able to kill that bear. Pitch was stunned by Jackson's fears, but Jackson didn't seem to notice. I have to take care of the fields and the sheep and the hunting. I have to help provide for my family. Pitch studied his younger brother. He's growing up so fast, too fast. He pondered on what Jackson said, and tried to see his point of view. He didn't like it very much. Fine. But I don't like it. Of course you don't. Jackson huffed teasingly. You're the boogeyman. Work is beneath you. Pitch rolled his eyes. Oh, if only Jackson knew the type of work he does on a daily basis. Are you going to stay or are you going home, cuz? Pitch glanced at his brother, only now realizing that he managed to get out of his hold, closed the door, and was now taking out a bow and a bag full of arrows from the closet. How he managed to do that so quickly, without him knowing, is beyond him. I should probably get back. Who knows when those guardians will attack again. Jackson frowned unhappily, but understood his brother's position. Hopefully, it won't be anytime soon. Jackson closed the door as he gathered his things for hunting and grabbed his shepherd crook. He turned to his brother, who was watching him silently. Are you coming back tomorrow? Pitch smiled warmly, which is rare for him. At his brother. Of course. He glanced at the nightmare. Are you going to name her? Jackson's eyes furrowed for a moment. Night. Her name is Night. Night neighed in approval. I think she likes it. She sure does. Pitch mused. Pitch walked towards Shadow in the living room. If you need me, go to his shadow and call me. I will. Be safe. You too. Pitch walked into the shadow, feeling more alive than he had felt in centuries. He had to tell Emily the good news. And I think this is where we will stop for today. It's getting late and we're both tired. Oh, don't worry. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Sleep well. And happy dreaming.